In time. In time. Testing. Testing.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebel Rosa. I'm part of the Angel Wings gallery team. And in Angel Wings gallery, we showcase indie artists to collectors who might be looking to collect good quality art at affordable prices. So we are looking to showcase a variety of indie artists, upcoming ones, through the online galleries that's managed by Casper. And I'm also part of the volunteer helpers in Misfit Robots. Joined the project in its really early days when there were about 20 community members, and really happy to see how the community in Misfit Robots has grown. So today I'm hosting this together with June, and supported by the other core team members, Casper and Espresso from Angel Wings, and our familiar family or community in Angel Wings, and also joined by guest speakers, Firebrand from Misfit Robots, as well as our guest artist, Jade. Jade is also in the audience. So I think we are all looking to bring a perspective of mental health and well-being work together in such a time. So before I go and pass on to June and the rest of our guest speakers to introduce, maybe just to give some background about this topic and why we think it's important. I think some personal sharing here, if I may be a little vulnerable to kick off. So I think for me, mental health, it's really a meaningful topic because I definitely had periods where I felt very low because of certain life events. But I didn't really know how to tackle it or how to unlock or talk about it or release, how I felt. So then we all have our everyday lives. We have to. I mean, I was very determined to not let the life events disrupt my work. So I'll go to work with a lot of energy, and then I'll take care of my kids with a lot of energy, and so nobody would know what I was going through. So I think 80% of the time I will seem very normal, but the 20% when I'm alone, it will be really wondering, like, how do I tackle this? So it's a little unattended, the feelings of grief and loss. And at the same time, my friends who also go through certain feelings of, I would say, loneliness, despair, and I don't really know how to help them. So I don't know what to say. I don't know how to support them. So when I joined Misfit Robots, it was really to learn how to attend to myself as well as to help my friends, the friends around me. And so this topic is meaningful to me, and really hope to have a good time sharing with all of you today. So I'll hand over to maybe June or Firebrand to introduce yourselves and also what mental health and well-being means to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebel, for this, for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. So, like, for me, art also played a role, like, in healing, I would say. So I myself also went through difficult times, like I guess most people at some point in their lives, and I had several years of depression, and for me, like, I also had therapy. It wasn't really successful, but I just read tons and tons of self-improvement books just to understand myself more in depth, and this helped me just tremendously. So if I would look back on my previous life, it just feels like the life of someone else, I have to say. So yeah, there's this thing that if something doesn't kill you, it certainly makes you stronger. I think there's the truth to it. And art had certainly played a role like in my healing process, I would say, particularly since I started my NFT journey, because I think art tells so much about yourself. The type of art you make tells so much about yourself. And when you start to observe the way you make art, you will learn so much about yourself. And through this process, I think you can really help yourself understand more about self, because I think healing starts with self-awareness and with like understanding why you do certain things, why you have certain negative thought patterns. And so it has to be an introspective process, I think. And because this is also very self-revealing, I think, like making art, you tell a lot about yourself. And for me, at least, this comes with a certain type of freedom, I say. So this was kind of part of my like healing process also that I wanted to briefly share. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, June. Firebrand, would you want to introduce the project and also yourself? What you do in the
sure.
mental.
Absolutely. So I'm Firebrand. Some people call me Fire, but in real life, my name is Marianne, and I'm a psychotherapist. More specifically, I'm a systemic psychotherapist. So that means I work with couples, families, and individuals in the UK National Health Service, which is our state-funded national health system. And I'm part of the leadership of a strand of their community mental health service. So we work with everything from kind of low mood and kind of low level things right up to serious eating disorders, harm to self, suicidality, and psychosis and schizophrenia. So we kind of cover everything. And in my private work, I work on a kind of all age level as well. So that's a bit about me from a professional background. I joined Web3 in January of this year. I caught COVID and I was in COVID isolation, and I was a little bit bored and frustrated, and it finally gave me some time to do some proper research into Web3 and NFTs and take a really deep dive. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me in my Web3 career, really. I've never looked back. And what I was noticing in my time in the space was that many projects had a mental health tab. But when I had a look in those, there were some people showing up being really, really vulnerable, some people showing up for the very first time being very vulnerable, but they weren't being met in a safe and kind of ethical way, which is none of the projects' fault. They set the mental health tab up with the best of intentions. But I was thinking, this isn't safe. There must be a better way for us to be able to do this. So I made a wish in the Meta Angels Discord, and Aaron A from Clay, who's one of the co-founders of the Misfit Robots project, replied to my wish proposal, if you like, and we kind of hooked up on Zoom, and we realized we were really like-minded and had the same kind of intentionality around wanting to do mental health and recovery safely. And then I got to know the rest of the guys on the team. So it's Aaron, Seth, Doug, and Dave. And Misfit Robots was born out of their collective life experiences, I suppose. So Aaron, Dave, and Doug have 70 years of collective sobriety between them, which is, in my mind, incredibly impressive. And Aaron, for example, works on the board of a not-for-profit helping people in Cleveland, that's where he's from, get access to kind of rehab and safe drug use. So that's the kind of direction that they came from. And they also realized that mental health intertwined really deeply with addiction, recovery, substance misuse. And Seth, unfortunately, Seth can't be here today. Seth is our artist, but he has lived experience of his family's, of his own kind of journey with mental health, and he can speak so deeply on that. So it's such a shame that he's not here. But he's obviously joined them, and they have a friendship, they know each other anyway. And then I was lucky enough to be asked to be one of the co-founders with them in terms of bringing my experience as a mental health professional to the team and seeing what we could do with that. So Misfit Robots was kind of born out of wanting to do things quite neutrally. We didn't want a kind of gendered idea of a PFP. So the robots came about because of that. And in terms of, misfits, we're all kind of running through life a little bit in a little bit robotic way, really, aren't we? We're kind of keeping on going, going with the grind. So that's where the whole idea of Misfit Robots initially came from. And I can speak more on the art a bit later when we get more into that conversation. But what we're hoping to do through the project is mental health and recovery as a service within Web3. And we're hoping to provide a kind of community that's navigated, that everybody is able to access, regardless of their financial background and various privileges that are afforded to some people more than others. So that's where we're at the moment. And we're currently in the Angel Labs Accelerator program, which is part of Meta Angels. So that's taking us on an incredible ride through the Web3 universe, and some very exciting things are in the running for our project that I can't actually talk about at the moment. But yeah, keep an eye out. We're really excited, and it's really lovely to be here today.
Yeah, thanks, Firebrand. I think I'm also looking forward to the robots. They are really cute robots done by Hula Hoo. And then we have our guest artist today, Jade. Hi, Jade. Would you like to introduce yourself and your story?
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to finally just be able to get onto a space I haven't been on in a couple months. My name is Jade. I am a 25-year-old artist, disabled artist from Pennsylvania, United States. A little bit about me, I guess, would be kind of grew up in a poverty-stricken town with, suffering like abusive parents and stuff like that. So I really didn't know what mental health was, but like art was always there for like an escape for me, kind of distraction, creativity in general. Whether it was painting, drawing, making pottery at one point. So it's kind of always been like an outlet. Like since I was young, I used it to just kind of like escape and the environment and just kind of like disassociate, I guess. And I really didn't start to learn about like mental health until I turned like maybe 19 or 20. And I started really paying attention to my body and myself and whatnot, and realized like, hey, I'm not okay. And so that was kind of like the start of my journey into like mental health into my 20s. And then I eventually received a couple diagnoses, bipolar 1, borderline personality disorder, PTSD, and generalized anxiety disorder. And that's kind of where my journey started a little late. I don't think many people learn about mental health when they're kids, but I think it's something that definitely we need to talk about. That's a different topic to talk on, but that's kind of a little bit about me. And then I have been working on myself for the last couple years. I got into Web3 last June after being released from a couple of hospitalizations, and that was kind of like finding the community and finding the like-minded people and the different artists, and just realizing this world is so much bigger than like us, and like how many more people are also like in the same boat and like also struggling, going through their own things, and just having like somebody to talk to, because like Web3 is 24/7 365, which is something that I love. Like no matter what time of the day it is, you'll be able to get on and connect with someone and find support or find someone to talk to or just pop in on a space. So I've been in Web3 for about a year now, since it's June, and started off just creating like digital work on OpenSea, and donating proceeds from the sales to NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. I had some experience, taking some courses from them and like actually getting help from them. So I felt I needed to give back and, help others and stuff. And so I've been like just, trying to continue like my engagement on Twitter and, just trying to put out like positive affirmations when I can and just like positive mental health tips and like grounding techniques and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of me.
Yeah. Going on the same train of thought, did you think that art has helped you to cope in any ways? And how has it helped in that sense, creating art or, appreciating art?
Sorry, I'm outside, so if you like hear a little background noise, yeah, I think art is definitely like, no matter like what form it is, whether you're making music, whether you're cooking, because I think cooking is a form of art, or drawing, painting, pottery, writing poetry. I think all of it kind of just in a way helps us like it. For me, it was like a distraction. It helped me like get away. It helped me create my own kind of like universe of like, characters and drawings and like not so much like a fantasy world, but I can see where people would get like, caught up in that and like be able to create that for themselves and stuff. So I think it's a really important outlet, and also like just like the creating process, I definitely believe like it can release like happiness chemicals in your brain, like once you complete a task and you're happy with the way that something looks. Like, I don't know, when I've completed a drawing and I'm like pleased with it, I'm like ready to show it off to the world. I'm showing everyone. I'm like so proud of myself. I'm like just like serotonin levels on like 100. So I definitely feel like that's like a shared kind of like experience for others. Like, and then also like when you're doing art, like you're really just doing art. You're not thinking about like everything else and all the bad things and all the negative and stuff like that. And it can be like a way to like express yourself as well, like through like even subliminally or like just straight out like with poetry and stuff. So yeah, that's how I kind of view it. Not sure if anyone else has any other opinions. Also, just thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story, Jade. So as we all know, Web3 or being at Web3 can be very tiring itself and can actually also cause mental health issues like anxiety or like just this fear that you can't keep up with all the information. So I was wondering, Jade, how do you cope with that? Like just as you said, being like this space is just like going on 24/7, and you yourself has already to deal with certain mental health issues. So I was wondering, how do you kind of deal with this additional burden, kind of be in this space? And yeah.
That was actually a really big challenge for me because initially in the beginning, I was hosting spaces, I was, making new friends, I was talking to everybody in the DMs. And, I was hosting like mental health spaces, and people would come and they would vent and like really positive spaces. But it being up 24/7 or trying to keep up with Web3 and everyone in different time zones and all the different projects and everything dropping and trying to be supporting to your friends and everything like that, like it can get exhausting. And so like trying to keep up, like just the Discord notifications, like mine got over to like 600 or something like that at one point. I was like really stressed because I felt guilty that I wasn't engaging and being here every day. But I realized along the way that, you know, you have to put up boundaries. Boundaries are like super important. And not a lot of people think of boundaries as a like wellness tool, but they 100% are. And no matter if it's boundaries with your family, boundaries with yourself, boundaries with your friends, you know, boundaries on how much time you spend like doing a certain thing a day. And, you know, saying, hey, you know, I dedicated this amount of time, I feel good about this amount of time, you know, but like the rest of the amount of time, like I need to take care of myself, and like just not feel guilty for putting up those boundaries, because that is like that's self-care. You know, you can't be everywhere, like doing everything all at once, unlike that movie, which I haven't seen yet, but I do want to see. But yeah, so yeah, that was like one of the most important things I had to learn, like boundaries and like not feeling guilty for putting up those boundaries.
Yeah, I totally get you the 24/7. So so sometimes I wonder if being in Web3 has made the topic of mental health and well-being better or worse. Because right now it can get overwhelming. So I'm not sure if Marianne, Firebrand, you have a view, because you are practicing in real life, and then you are also in Web3. So how do you think Web3 has made this whole area better or worse for all of us?
Yeah, sure. I don't think that I can give a kind of. I think the answer to that is almost quite non-binary, if that makes sense. There are several lanes of traffic that I view it as. Those who know me well know that I use this analogy quite a lot. So I think yes, if you, I mean, for example, myself as a professional, in the first few months of being in Web3, my own mental health was impacted. You know, FOMO is real for all of us. It doesn't matter how much of a professional we are. It doesn't matter what skills we have in our toolkit. You know, it's there. We're human beings, and strands of our neurology and our own personalities will be intertwined with that. So I was really reflective on, well, if this is happening to me, who has a really robust support network around me, lots of supervision, lots of my own therapy because of the nature of my job, what on earth is this like for people who don't have access to all of that? And of course, it's not going to affect everybody in the same way, because we're all unique and our personalities are very, very different. Um, so that was what came up for me in the beginnings of my journey with this. And I think that it's kind of two-stranded. I think, yes, it can impact on your mental health, and it's really important to have an awareness of that. And I don't think that's spoken about enough for new people that we're onboarding in the space. You know, it's great that we want to onboard all of these new people, and I am absolutely here for that. But I think that has to come with almost a caveat of saying, well, come into this space, but here's the kind of checklist, if you like, of things that you need to do to take care of yourself. And for me, one of the most important parts in taking care of myself has been surrounding myself with a really robust community in Web3, because without that, I think I would have been very, very lost. Because look, you know, I only have 2 in real life friends who are in this setting with me as well. And that's not enough for you on this journey. So I found my communities initially in Fame Ladies. They taught me everything that I needed to know about what I was doing. You know, there were lots of security hacks happening. And when you're new, that's terrifying. I was terrified. I was literally sat on the other side of my computer as though it was going to explode in my face. It was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? What do I do? And it was 3 a.m. in the morning, my time, but I had this incredible community based there that were there for me and supported me every step of the way. So I think community is key to protect, and a good community, not a kind of shill community, a community which is intentional and actually cares about you as a person. I think that's what's key to protecting your mental health at the outset of this Web3 journey. And, you know, we have an incredible opportunity in this space to actually talk about mental health, not just once or twice, but all day in the various spaces that are going on. And as long as that's done safely and ethically, I mean, how amazing is that? We want to destigmatize mental health. We know that that's a huge part of the problem in anyone across the world accessing treatment. but we can't destigmatize it unless we're talking about it, and unless we're talking about it intentionally. So for me, this is a marvelous opportunity, but we've got to almost handle it very carefully and take good care of it and do it with intention and safety, and not just kind of throw it around as a buzzword, if that makes sense. I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I'm hearing is, these are the two basic ways to kind of at least cope with into Web3. But Web3 also has its benefits, allowing people to talk about it and tackle the sensitive issues of mental health. Casper, you've raised your hand. Yes.
Hi everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Casper, and together with Yoon, Rebel, and Espresso, we're the OGs together with Johannes, who couldn't come on the space today, but we basically help support the Angel's Wing. And I just had a question for Firebrand, because I come from an Asian background, and of course, mental health awareness isn't really talked about in our kind of backgrounds, because typically it's pushed away in a corner that you might not be trying hard enough in life and you're just too weak, right? So my question to Firebrand would be, how do you tell where on the spectrum you are, and how do you rationalize this, how should I put it, binary kind of, are you weak or are you having mental health issues, and at what point do you recognize that you need to seek professional help?
I just really want to empathize with what you're saying, Casper. I'm not obviously Asian myself, but I have many clients who I see who are, and they all say very similar things to you. I think mental health has so much different meaning in different cultures, and I can only speak, obviously I'm a white British woman, so I can only speak for mental health from my perspective as a white British woman and how I view the people who I see in my practice, if that makes sense. I really want to attend to that, because I can never ever be, I'm never an expert on anything anyway, even as a professional. It's the clients I see who are experts on themselves. And B, I could never say that I'm an expert on another person's culture, because that would just be, in my mind, pretty much fraudulent. So I think, how do you break down, we all grow up with the narratives from our family and the scripts from our family around the meaning different things hold. And for some people, mental health in certain cultures, it's more stigmatized. Mental health is stigmatized already, but certain cultures, it is seen as something to be, not even to be seen, and definitely not to be heard. So I think that sometimes that almost takes practice outside of your culture and within the friends and whatever it is that you do to kind of surround yourself within your life, that you almost learn from the role modeling of other people. We do that all the time anyway, not just as children, but as adults. So I think it's getting that right temperature of yourself, because at some level, even outside of your family and your culture, you do have a knowledge about ourselves. We always know something about ourselves, no matter how difficult that is. So with that knowledge, what's your kind of, I like to speak about emotional temperatures. So what's your temperature for yourself? I like to think we are all doing the very best we can, and that weakness, for me, in my life, it doesn't exist. If I'm having a day where I feel I can't manage something, that's something that's coming up for me, and that's normally lots of different factors playing into that. So I wonder, for you, Casper, I would offer to you, because I don't know you at all, but I'd say you are never weak. Nobody is ever weak. Everyone is just doing the very, very best they can, and the world is really difficult. It's really difficult, especially, the pandemic's not over everywhere yet. That's made the world even more difficult. So I think there's something about, even when people around us are shouting really loudly that, oh, this isn't mental health and mental health doesn't exist, what can you surround yourself with in other domains of your life to kind of say, yes, it does. It does exist. It exists for me. And you don't have to get into that conversation with your family, because what I've certainly learned over time working with families and from my own family is we can't change what other people do. We can't control that. We can only control ourselves. And I think, for me, what I'm seeing in Misfit Robots and in our Discord and in our community is creating a context where people are safe to show up and say, this is what's happening for me today, and not be met with someone saying, you shouldn't be feeling like this, you should be feeling like that, or you're weak, or etc. Does that make sense? And I think that is what's really, really important.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Marianne said. So like for someone who actually grew up both in Asian and Western culture, I can totally relate to what you said about like being in a like living in an Asian cultural setting that people usually tend not to show like their inner feelings and trying to stay strong from the outside. I know this very well from my parents too, and in very few instances you really get an insight into their like the inner struggle. And I also want to like say that I believe actually on the same line as Marianne said, actually saying no one is actually weak. People certainly deal with different degrees of can deal with different degrees of mental like struggles, but I don't think that anyone is weak. And oftentimes we just don't know what's going on in someone else who maybe appear to be strong. Because I think like oftentimes things can be completely deceiving. And also what I observe is I think the biggest like kind of sickness of our society is that most people dealing with the issue that feel not enough, like not being enough, like being valued for they are. I mean, we're trying to seek for like external valuation. And like going through like certain things in my life, I just feel like this is like one of the kind of also oftentimes key causes of many health issues, mental health issues, just that people don't like feel enough and don't feel like just don't oftentimes it just comes from the feeling that they are not being enough, like who they are, and not being valued for who they are. But I think you can't just like you can never look for external validation for who you are. This has to be something, an internal process. And think once you find this, you will become stronger, and you won't depend on anything like external circumstances that can affect like your inner well-being, basically. Just sharing something from my own like experience.
Thank you, Yoon and Firebrand, for sharing. I think that gave me a lot of comfort in what you guys just shared, that it's something very personal to yourself. I think it's something very it's quite new to me, this talk of emotional temperatures and how you're feeling about yourself. I guess it's just something that we ourselves have to get to grips, right? And not feel like you're always being judged, and it's always more important that you feel right. I think that's the gist of what I'm getting from this conversation. So thanks very much, Firebrand, for your very comforting input, as well as Yoon for sharing. Thanks.
Yeah, so I wanted to also cover about how art and mental health play a part. So maybe wanted to hear from the artist's perspective about the role of art. So I think I heard Jade and June share that it helps in terms of focus. When you're doing art, you are not really thinking about problems or your other areas or issues. Are there any issues that you feel particularly plague artists, or other mental health problems that are more specific to artists?
So I personally I can only kind of speak on like what I've experienced and like other artists that I've met and stuff like that. And I would probably say depression, maybe feel like being like feeling like invisible, kind of like those type of, like, for me at least, like as an artist, like feeling invisible, feeling told like, you know, as an artist you're not gonna be like, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna go anywhere, nobody's gonna pay for your work, you're never gonna get hired, why are you wasting your time going to college for this? So like the whole gaslighting behind like choosing to be like an artist or like even being an artist is like, you know, I think contributes to like, you know, the like mental health aspect of it, and also like just from like my experience, I would probably say like depression would be like but I'm not like, I don't know any like statistics or anything, I'm just like basing off of like other artists that I've met and like you know, talking to them about mental health and whatnot, and like how it's like been affecting them. That's probably what I would say like I most relate with other people on, other artists, and I've heard that other artists have a hard time with, and then like, yeah, just like the stigma behind like being an artist and like everybody like, I don't know, like, sorry, I'm not sure if it's like stereotype or like what it is, but like for some reason like people, you know, that I've come in contact with are like always think like artists are like hippies or like, you know, I don't know, like just like introverts or like weird, or like I've had people like tell me like, oh well, you know, you're not as weird as I was like expecting you to be, or you know, stuff like, they're like, you're cooler than what I thought, and like stuff like that, and I'm just like, oh well, you know, thanks, I guess, like so I think that's like one of the challenges I've heard other artists speak on, and like just feeling like invisible and like underrated as like a career field, and like, yeah, so.
Jade, let me assure you, you just sound like on Space, you just sound so confident and cool. So I think sometimes we just have a, I don't know, kind of distorted self-perception, I would say. So yeah, just, I think you're great. don't feel like bad about yourself or anything else, please.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's actually like super nerve-wracking for me to like speak publicly. That's kind of why I stopped doing spaces, because of like in the beginning I was like gung-ho, like mental health spaces, and everyone was coming and like venting and stuff, but then like you know, not being a like mental health professional, like I felt bad, like I couldn't like give the everyone like the support they were like needing and stuff like that, and like that's where the boundaries part came back up. But like not being in spaces like for almost like 6 months and like coming back today is like a little anxiety.
No, you're doing great. It's, as you said, I mean, it's you've been like in NFT space like for a year, and like being like there like 24/7 is just like impossible for anyone. And so as you said, like prioritizing your own boundaries, particularly if you're like in Web3 for a long time, is just so important, just for yourself not to burn out at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have like, I can't even tell you the amount of like tweets I've seen like, oh, you know, I'm taking a break, I'm burned out, like be careful with the burnout, and like warnings to like people who are like coming into the space and stuff like that. And like, you know, even like in group chats, like people will come back and be like, oh, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, I've been like gone for so long. And like, I think that we need to like normalize, like, you don't need to be sorry for taking a break off social media, because like your mental health and your physical health and you in general is just like your first major priority, should be. And like I get like, you know, engagement and like, you know, showing up every day, but like you have to show up every day for yourself. Like that's the first person you should be showing up for every single day. And so I just want to make that, I want to normalize that. Don't apologize for taking a break, because breaks are necessary, and every single day your best is going to, you do your best every single day, and every single day your best is going to look different.
Yeah, very, very wise words. Thank you, Jade. Espresso, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, really grateful for this conversation and all of the insights that are shared and all of the good advice. And it can really take its toll to be in this space, this Web3 space, especially also since social media is like everything in Web3, and for introverts like me, that's a real challenge some days. Like just logging on, chatting with people, tweeting, it's can be a lot. So I do have a question for Firebrand. Wanted to know a bit more about Misfit Robots and what the project is aiming to do for people. Like, is it you mentioned people can come there and it's a safe space. Can you elaborate a bit on how it's structured?
Absolutely, I'm very happy to speak to that. So effectively, we're a team of, it's kind of mixed. So we've got mental health professionals who are qualified, registered, and accredited wherever it is in the world they might be living. So, for example, the psychotherapists, psychologists, we have some social workers, some dialectical behavioral therapists, and I think someone who's a cognitive behavioral therapist. And also alongside that, we've got experts of their own lived experience. So in terms of long-term recovery, who are on the ground in their home states or their home countries, actively supporting and helping those who are vulnerable and struggling. So what Misfit Robots is not is obviously therapy, because later down the line, we'll see where we go. But at the moment, nothing that can be done in Discord can be therapy, but it can be support, it can be listening, and it can be peer support, and it can also signpost to in real life crisis help, which is obviously really important. So what we offer, we have a mental health tab within our channel, and we have several other tabs for example, recovery, meditation. We also have kind of NFT venting if everyone's having a really tough day in the markets and whatnot. So people can come and share that, and you will always be met with people who are listening in an ethical and sympathetic and mindful way, and also in terms of professionals following kind of best practice, evidence-based practice in our thoughts, which again is not advice, it's just support and listening. But also we have had people in crisis come in, so we do have a one-to-one ticket that can be created for mental health support and for recovery support. And within those tickets, it's a kind of private dialogue that can happen. And if we feel that somebody is in a crisis, they can be signposted to in real life help, support, and emergency care, if that makes sense. So that's effectively what we're trying to do at Misfit Robots. And it's just a lot quieter, I think, in terms of the traffic that you get through in normal Discords. There's no shill, there's no high pressure. It's just very calm. Even I feel quite calm in the Misfit Robots Discord. So that's what we're trying to do. There are lots of other things that are being rolled out, but again, I can't speak to those at present until we have. It's almost a bit like being under an invisible non-disclosure agreement, but there are some exciting things coming our way. We also have some alliances with several projects. We have Llamaverse, Fame Lady Squad, Troop, Keepers of the Inn. I'm trying to think who else we have, and several coming that I can't talk about. I keep forgetting that I can't talk about these things. But so what happens is we'll post out in our Alliance channel. It might be about articles, podcasts, general hints and tips around mental health and well-being, and obviously links to our own spaces where we have guest speakers coming along. For example, talking about various mental health topics, grief and loss, addiction, recovery. We recently had a space with a female bodybuilder who was talking about the pressure that she has been under competing and how that relates into the NFT space. So that's, I hope that's a slightly longer summary than I wanted to give, but I hope that kind of gives you a whistle-stop tour of what Misfit Robots is.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds amazing, and I have no doubt we need this kind of service and people and Discord and a community like that, because that's one thing I really noticed, especially after joining the Angel Swing Discord, and the people you surround yourself with in this space makes all the difference. So seek out kind of the right group of people. That's kind of the first step into having a good time in this space and kind of a community to share a bit of the FOMO with, so it doesn't get so tricky.
Yeah, I think Angel Wings and Misfit Robots Discords are both very comfortable, where you can be yourself and you can talk about anything and everything under the sun. I think in Misfit Robots, we do have trained therapists like Firebrand who can provide that support. And then in Angel Swings, we have a lot of indie artists, and we commonly share our art, and also a lot of other random stuff like food. So it's a fun Discord, both of them. I wanted to wrap up the last 10 minutes, by focusing back on Web3. And I think, we have an opportunity, like Firebrand says, to really support one another on mental health. I wanted to get your perspective in terms of what we can do better as a community, in terms of using art to help yourself on mental health and well-being, or supporting one another. So, Jade or Firebrand, would you like to go?
I'm happy to quickly go. I think I'd really like to just share what I know Seth, who is our artist. He, just a little snapshot that he gave when we did our pitch to Meta Angels was that he said in his whole life, art and mental health has always been intertwined, and it's been a way that he expresses himself and to be clear in his mind and to slow down his thoughts. And for him, being able to learn through visuals whilst also being able to express his feelings visually, and that to me is kind of really seals it on how art can be so helpful, and that there is no right way to do art. I think that's what I'm always saying to people. I did art back in the day when I was at school. I don't have time to be as creative as I'd like to be, but any kind of art, even the doodles that people do when they're kind of, lost in their own imagination, or I doodle sometimes when I'm talking on the phone, that is art. That is your way of expression. And I think we don't always realize that and how it can be harnessed. So that's kind of my thoughts on art. I hope that's useful.
Yes, thank you, Firebrand. In fact, I think sometime back we ran a fun exercise where each of us kind of drew an art. And right now, I think June is running a art challenge where we get to express ourselves according to a template that she provides. So it kind of lets us, release our inner emotions, our creativity visually. So, yeah. June or Jade, would you like to share your views on what we can do better as a Web3 community?
Yeah, so thank you, Rabel, for referring to our drawing project. I would say I don't really see this as a challenge, because I think the goal isn't like to let's say to create a masterpiece or something. It's just, I think the main goal should be to just, it's the time when you drew the drawing, to become just aware of what you're doing, just aware of what you're creating. This is the whole point. It's more like a mindful practice, I would say, and by becoming actually aware of the process, I think you will actually improve your drawing skill. So, and the way how this whole project I had in mind is based on, it's just that it's not just like it doesn't teach you really to draw, just teach you how to perceive, like really draw what you see, and not trying to figure out what kind of object is. Don't have like a certain like the eye structure in mind to draw, but like to just really draw the shape that you see. And through this process, just focusing on perception and awareness, I think this really calms down the mind and calms down the nervous system. and also increases like your attention and focus. And if you do this just like, let's say even like 10 or 20 minutes per day, you don't even, I think, even need to finish the assignment, but just dedicate some amount of time doing these things. It can be really just helpful for your general mental health. And I'm really proud of some of our participants in this this project, like Ha and Michelle and Shram, who were so dedicated and showed up like almost every day and worked on their assignments. So I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, I didn't have the courage to start. I'll try. But I agree with you. I think the process of really just framing or putting things into perspective and expressing it visually, it's quite therapeutic, actually. Although I'm super amateur. So Jade, how about yourself? Do you think there are any gaps or opportunities where together we can do better?
One thing I just want to express, I've heard so many people say this before. Oh, well, I can't draw. I can't draw. Well, I didn't know how to draw. I didn't know how to draw. I learned how to draw. And yeah, I would definitely agree. It's a totally like mindful activity. You have to be present. You have to be in the like present moment, in the now. You're not worried about the past. You're not worried about the future. And yeah, I would encourage to say that anybody can draw. You could like I've seen. It's like those things you go to the museum and you see, showcased, and most people would say that's not art. And whatever you want to create, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's art. If you consider it art, you call it art, then it's art. And I think that that's kind of one of the things I want to share, that anybody can be an artist, anybody can draw, anybody can create art in your own way. And if it invokes an emotion in you, then that's what art's about, and just being mindful, and yeah, that it's for everyone. There's no limitation on art.
Thank you, Jade. I think Casper has a question. Before that, if anybody else has a question, please feel free to raise your hand. We are coming to the end, so I think we have time for one or two questions. So Casper's question is, art can be a great way, and this is for Firebrand. So art can be a great way as a release for mental health. But would you have any tips on when to recognize you need professional help rather than repeatedly try to use art to alleviate some of the issues that you face?
Okay, so I suppose for me, and this is said from a place of my own biases, I think it's very unusual that art alone can be used as a remedy for mental health. It can be a great distraction technique. It can be a great way to channel your feelings and your thoughts in a meaningful way, and that might be enough if you're just experiencing something at a very low level. That we all experience dips and peaks and troughs in our mood. That's normal. Everyone experiences mental health. That's completely normal. But I think if you're noticing that your mental health is affecting your day-to-day life in a way that you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, and you can't harness the motivation that you feel that you used to be able to do those day-to-day tasks, your routines are changing, you might be withdrawn. Again, this is just one example. Mental health does different things to different people. To some people, it might mean they get really, really involved in lots and lots of things, and then they start to kind of channel toward burnout. So I think sometimes people can say, we'll do this to distract yourself, but if you're not able to concentrate on those things that people are suggesting, then I think it's time that you thought, actually, do I need some more help with this? Because none of us should have to go this alone. We just shouldn't. And it may be that your help is in your support system of your family and friends around you, but it may be that you also need a bit more than that. And that might just be talking to someone once. I sometimes have some people come to me, they will have one therapy session, and that's that. Other people might need it for a really long time. And for some people, it does take multiple rounds of therapy to find the right fit. the therapist that you go to isn't always the right fit. And this is all unique. It's all person-centered. So I think, to speak to what Casper was saying, you know yourself, and you know when the things that you're using as distraction techniques, that they're just not enough. And the problem feels that it's kind of, growing legs and getting stronger, and your life's being impacted by that. So that's what I would offer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because Casper was kind of rugged, so he couldn't ask the question. I had to ask on his behalf. But yeah, thanks, Firebrand. I think it's about knowing yourself enough and having that awareness, knowing when to kind of put up your hand. And if any of you do need help, I think joining the Misfit Robots Discord will be a good way to get started and speak to people. I know there's a channel for venting, and just to release. Firebrand, does the project have a mint date coming up?
We don't have a date just yet. We will have more information for people hopefully over the next month, but we don't have a mint date right now. That's mainly because of some very exciting, interesting, complicated things going on in the background.
Okay. Yeah, so we can watch out for Misfit Robots minting date, and we have pinned Jade's art and Jade's Twitter here as well. So we can check out Jade's art, and also for any artists or collectors who are interested in indie art, feel free to join Angel Wings Gallery or Angel Wings Discord. We have the Discord invite on our Twitter channel. June, is there any other things before we wrap up?
Yeah, not really. I just want to maybe summarize this great discussion that we had today. That that was really meaningful, and yes, as we heard that from Marianne, said we all kind of deal with mental health issues from time to time and to a certain degree, but no one is actually weak. And particularly in this fast-pacing Web3 world, you have to set your own boundaries, prioritizing yourself, as Jed said. And you don't really need to apologize for not showing up every day. And it can be helpful in this setting to seek out like a community you resonate with, or even communities that are supportive, focused on mental health, like Misfit Robots or us, like the Angel Swing. And art itself can be a mindful practice. And as we heard from Jade, like everyone can create art. And as long as you feel good about it, it's everything is art, yeah. And but if your mental health issues affects your life in such a way that you have to drag you out of bed every day, then it's probably time to seek professional mental help. Yeah, that's kind of from my side. And we spent like an hour talking about this important issue. And yeah, so hope everyone can enjoy their Sunday, just spending some time offline. And yeah, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Rebel, anything?
No,
Okay.
yeah, just want to thank Jade and Marianne for sharing and for being here with us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
And
for
of
me.
having
course,
us.
yeah, for all our audience. Have a good Sunday,
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
everyone.